Cities have always been more than just places to live. They're the heartbeat of civilizations. Did you know that the way our cities are designed today has roots that go back thousands of years? From ancient Rome's grand roads and aqueducts to today's sprawling megacities, urban planning has been crucial in shaping how we live. But what exactly did the Romans contribute to city planning? How did their ideas evolve into the modern cities we see today? Let's dive into the fascinating journey of urban planning, starting from ancient Rome all the way to the megacities of our time. Urban planning isn't a new concept. It goes way back to some of the earliest cities in history. Think about Babylon, a walled city that was the capital of Mesopotamia, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Even back in 2900 BC, the ancient city of Uruk had planned settlements. Fast forward to the times of the Greeks and Romans, and cities were being planned on a whole new level. The Roman Empire, for instance, wasn't just about conquering lands, it was about building cities that worked well. They built road networks, aqueducts, and even invented apartment buildings. Rome's grid-based road networks connected their empire, and their water systems provided clean water to all their cities. The Romans also created public spaces, like forums, where people could gather, and entertainment venues like the Colosseum, which still influence modern sports arenas today. These ideas laid the foundation for the way we build cities now. From streets and water systems to public gathering spaces, the basics of how cities are planned today have their origins in these ancient times. Now, let's see how Rome's ideas continue to shape the world we live in today. Rome's influence on city planning is everywhere, even if we don't realize it. Just look at our architecture. Modern government buildings, museums, and even sports stadiums have designs inspired by Roman styles like arches, domes, and columns. Romans were also masters of concrete, creating structures that have stood for centuries, and their ideas about using public space are still relevant today. The Romans introduced the concept of apartment buildings and developed marketplaces like Trajan's Market, which was the world's first shopping mall, with multiple floors, hallways, and even staircases. This idea paved the way for today's malls and office parks. But Rome's influence doesn't stop with just buildings. Their legal and political systems have shaped our modern governments. For example, the Roman Republic's ideas about citizenship, civic duty, and governance inspired the US Constitution. The Roman approach to time, like our 365-day calendar, the 7-day week, and dividing the day into hours, also comes from them. Even how we measure and keep time today is based on their system. So, whether it's politics, law, or architecture, Rome's ideas still play a huge role in how we design and run our cities. Urban planning took a big leap during the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century. While factories and jobs brought people into cities, this sudden growth also created big problems. Crowded streets, poor air quality, and unsanitary conditions made cities tough places to live. It became clear that cities needed better planning to manage these new challenges. This is when modern urban planning started taking shape. New zoning laws and building codes were introduced to improve living conditions. For example, the 1916 New York Zoning Act was one of the first to set rules on building heights and residential areas, aiming to make cities healthier and safer. This was also the time when urban planners started thinking about how to divide cities into different zones for living, working, and recreation. Let's see how these early planning ideas evolved further into the megacities of today. As cities kept growing, new ideas about how they should be designed started to emerge. Two big movements stood out: the City Beautiful movement and the Garden City movement. The City Beautiful movement aimed to make cities more beautiful and organized. It was all about grand public spaces, wide boulevards, and impressive buildings, believing that beautiful cities would create better citizens and improve social order. On the other hand, the Garden City movement had a different approach. It focused on creating smaller, self-contained communities surrounded by green spaces. The idea was to move people away from crowded city centers into planned towns that had plenty of fresh air, sunlight, and nature. These garden cities were meant to offer a healthier way of living and avoid the mess and chaos found in big cities. Both movements aimed to solve urban problems in their own way, whether by making cities more beautiful or by creating smaller, greener communities. Now, let's look at what happened in the mid-20th century when urban planning took on new challenges with urban renewal and the rise of suburbs. In the mid-20th century, cities faced a new set of challenges and opportunities. Urban renewal projects aimed to revitalize older, run-down neighborhoods, but they sometimes caused more harm than good. For example, the Pruitt-Igoe housing project, meant to provide affordable housing, ended up failing and is often cited as a lesson in poor planning. During this period, many older buildings were torn down to make way for newer developments, but this often displaced existing communities and created controversy. At the same time, suburbs were expanding rapidly. After World War II, many people wanted to move away from crowded cities to quieter, newly developed suburban areas. Places like Levittown became symbols of the American dream, with mass-produced homes and spacious yards. New infrastructure, like freeways, made it easier to live in these suburbs and commute to the city for work. However, this led to urban sprawl, where cities grew outwards in a less organized way. This growth brought its own set of problems, which urban planners continue to address today. Fast forward to today, and we're facing a new era of urban growth, megacities. These are cities with over 10 million people, like Tokyo, New York, and Mumbai. While they offer many opportunities, they also bring big challenges. Think about traffic jams that never seem to end, or the struggle to provide clean water and proper housing for everyone. These cities are bursting at the seams, and keeping them running smoothly is no easy task. Modern urban planners now have to think about more than just roads and buildings. They have to deal with pollution, climate change, and finding enough space for everyone. It's about making cities smart and sustainable, using technology and green solutions to solve these complex problems. As cities continue to grow, the future of urban planning will need to be more innovative than ever. Planners will have to think of new ways to make cities more livable, sustainable, and inclusive. They'll be finding ways to balance growth with green spaces, keep up with technology, and ensure that everyone has a place to call home. Urban planning is not just about creating cities, it's about creating spaces where people can thrive. If you're curious about where cities are headed next, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history and what's coming next. Stay tuned.